What are you doing here? Moving in. Just got the keys. I'm unloading my car. You can see. Let me see some ID. I don't think I'm required to show ID. Turn around. You're under arrest.
That arrest just ended a career because Officer Ryan Bennett had no idea he was handcuffing Chicago's newly appointed police superintendent. James Mitchell, 52, the first black chief in the city's history, appointed 8 days ago. The man who literally wrote Illinois' training manual on racial profiling was about to be profiled on his own officer's body camera. 48 hours from this moment, Bennett's badge would be suspended. The FBI would open a civil rights investigation, and the nation would ask one question: if this happened to the police chief, what happens to everyone else? Badge number 3492. How many others did Bennett stop before he finally stopped the wrong person? Here's the irony that makes this unbearable. James Mitchell wrote the book. Literally, the Illinois Police Academy's official training curriculum on implicit bias and racial profiling, the manual. Every Chicago officer studies the protocols they're supposed to follow. Mitchell authored it. He'd spent 26 years building expertise that should have prevented exactly this moment. Former deputy chief in Detroit, master's in criminal justice from Northwestern, Obama task force member on police community relations, and now Chicago's first black police superintendent appointed to clean up a department drowning in misconduct allegations. He'd moved from Detroit just 3 days earlier with his wife Angela, a nurse married 28 years, and their son David, 20, pre-law at DePaul. The townhouse on North Orchard cost $1.4 million, a tree-lined block in Lincoln Park, where joggers pass brownstones and families walk to weekend brunettes. This was supposed to prove something: that a black man could lead, could live, could exist in spaces that had historically excluded him. Mitchell was on his fourth trip from the U-Haul when Officer Bennett's patrol car slowed down. And in that split second, James Mitchell made a choice that would change everything. He could have pulled rank immediately. 3 words: "I'm your boss." But he didn't, because he wanted to see exactly how one of his officers would treat an ordinary black man in Lincoln Park. A man without a badge, without institutional power, without protection. The man who wrote the manual on profiling was about to become a case study in it. Have you ever been guilty of existing while black? But Officer Ryan Bennett had a history. 34 years old, assigned to District 18, covering Lincoln Park and Lakeview, some of Chicago's wealthiest neighborhoods. He was a former Army MP who joined the Chicago Police Department in 2014. 9 years on the force, never promoted beyond patrol. He lived in the suburbs with his wife Sarah, an elementary school teacher, and their 2 kids. He commuted 45 minutes each way to patrol streets where homes sold for 7 figures. And in those 9 years, Ryan Bennett had accumulated 6 civilian complaints. Every single one involved a black man. Every single one resulted in 0 discipline. In 2016, Bennett stopped and frisked Jamal Thompson, a DePaul University student 3 blocks from campus. Bennett claimed Thompson matched the description of a suspect. No description was ever produced. The case was closed without action. In 2020, Bennett pulled over Marcus Green, a delivery driver, for what he called a routine traffic stop in Lakeview. The stop turned physical. Green was hospitalized with a separated shoulder. Internal Affairs reviewed the case and cleared Bennett, citing appropriate use of force given suspect's resistance. Green's dashcam footage, which showed him complying with every command, was deemed inconclusive. In 2021, Bennett confronted Terrence Williams, a tech worker, outside the very building where James Mitchell would later move in. Williams was carrying groceries to his own condo. Bennett demanded proof that Williams lived there, refused to believe him, and only backed down when the building manager personally intervened. The building's concierge, Carlos Martinez, knew Bennett well. Too well. "We call him the problem," Martinez would later tell investigators. "He patrols this block like he owns it. Always stops black visitors, always demands ID, always acts like they're criminals until proven otherwise." Residents complained to building management 3 times. Nothing ever changed. Here's what the data showed. District 18, where Bennett worked, had a stop rate for black residents that was 2.8 times higher than for white residents. But black people made up only 12% of the district's population. Badge number 3492. 9 years on the force, 6 complaints, all involving black men, 0 consequences, 0 discipline, 0 accountability. Was that a pattern or was that policy? May 20th, 23, 15 in the afternoon, 72 degrees sunny, the kind of perfect Chicago spring day that brings families to Lincoln Park. Mitchell's U-Haul was parked legally in the loading zone, hazard lights blinking. He'd made 3 trips, already had maybe 2 more to go before the truck was empty. Officer Ryan Bennett was driving his patrol car down North Orchard when he saw him. A black man in his 50s carrying boxes from a U-Haul toward one of the most expensive buildings on the block. Bennett's thought process, later reconstructed from his own statements, went something like this: black guy, expensive neighborhood, probably stealing. Moving company uniform. Number building employee, doesn't look like it. Better check it out. Bennett pulled his cruiser across the street, got out, his hand drifting toward his holster in a gesture so practiced it was almost unconscious. He crossed the street as Mitchell set down a lamp to reach for his keys. "Excuse me, what are you doing here?" Mitchell turned around, surprised but calm. "Moving in, just got the keys to this building." "Let me see some ID." "I'm unloading my car," Mitchell said, gesturing to the U-Haul, the boxes on the sidewalk, the furniture clearly visible. "You can see the boxes right here." "That's not what I asked. ID, now." In that moment, James Mitchell made a choice. He could have ended this immediately. "I'm Superintendent James Mitchell, your new boss, and you need to step back right now." 3 seconds, maybe 4, and this entire confrontation would have been over. But Mitchell didn't say that because he wanted to see exactly how one of his officers would treat an ordinary black man in Lincoln Park. A man without a badge, without power, without institutional protection. "Am I being detained?" Mitchell asked, his voice steady. "What's the reason for the stop?" "You're in a high-value area. We've had multiple break-ins reported on this block." "I live here. Unit 6C, my name is on the lease." "Sure it is," Bennett said, his tone dripping with disbelief. "ID, last time I'm asking." Inside the building, Carlos Martinez saw what was happening through the lobby window. His stomach dropped. Not again. He grabbed the lease paperwork for Unit 6C and rushed outside. Emily Rodriguez, a retired teacher in Unit 3A, started filming from her window. David Okonkwo, a software engineer in Unit 5B, was already on his phone with 911. "My wallet's in my back pocket," Mitchell said. "I'm going to reach for it slowly." "Keep your hands where I can see them." Mitchell froze, his hands still visible, halfway to his pocket. Okay, what do you want me to do?" "Turn around, hands behind your back." "You're arresting me for what?" "Trespassing, failure to identify, resisting." "I'm not resisting," Mitchell said, his voice still calm but harder now. "And I'm not trespassing, I live here." "That's for the station to sort out." Bennett stepped forward, grabbed Mitchell's arm. Mitchell pulled away, not violently but firmly, not resisting arrest but not complying either. "I'm not resisting. I'm not trespassing. I live here." Bennett reached for his handcuffs. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Mitchell's mind was racing. He could stop this right now. Pull rank. End Bennett's career with 3 words. Or he could let it play out. Document everything. Show the world exactly what happens when a black man, even one with decades of law enforcement experience, tries to exist in a wealthy white neighborhood. He chose documentation. "Officer Bennett," Mitchell said, his voice dropping lower. "Badge number 3492. I'm giving you one more chance to reconsider." Bennett didn't hear the warning, didn't recognize the tones, breathing, didn't understand that the man he was about to handcuff had already memorized every officer's badge number in the department and that Bennett's file had been flagged for review. How many black men freeze like this every single day? Hands visible, voice calming, heartbeat racing, knowing that one wrong move, one misinterpreted gesture, one moment of fears could be the last thing they ever experience. Sergeant Patricia Coleman was 3 blocks away when the radio crackled. Dispatch 1078 officer needs assistance, possible confrontation, Ghost 121 North Orchard. When Coleman had been with CPD for 15 years, she knew that address, knew that block, and she just spent the past week in transition meetings with the new superintendent. Her stomach dropped before she even turned the corner. She saw the scene through her windshield and hit the brakes. Bennett with his hand on a black man's arm. Carlos Martinez holding paperwork. Emily Rodriguez filming from a window. And the black man standing there with his hands visible, his posture calm, but his jaw set in a way that Coleman recognized immediately. She was out of her patrol car before it fully stopped. Bennett, stop, step back now. Bennett turned confused, still gripping Mitchell's arm. Sarge, I got this. Suspect is refusing to comply, failure to. That's not a suspect, Coleman said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. That's Superintendent James Mitchell, your boss. Silence. The kind of silence that feels like the air has been sucked out of the street. Bennett's face drained of color. His hand fell away from Mitchell's arm. His other hand, the one that had been reaching for handcuffs, started to shake. Coleman turned to Mitchell, her face flushed. Sir, I apologize. This should never have. Mitchell raised his hand, cutting her off. Don't apologize to me, Sergeant. Apologize to every black man officer Bennett has profiled over the past 9 years who didn't have a badge to protect them. He turned to Bennett and his voice dropped lower, colder. Officer Bennett, you just attempted to arrest the Chicago police superintendent for the crime of moving into his own home. In the next 72 hours, this body camera footage will be reviewed by Internal Affairs, by the FBI Civil Rights Division, and very likely by CNN. Do you understand what you've done? Bennett's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Finally, he managed, Sir, I didn't know, I thought. Exactly, Mitchell said. You didn't know because you didn't ask. You saw a black man in Lincoln Park and assumed I was a criminal. That's called racial profiling, Officer Bennett. And I literally wrote the training manual on it. Mitchell stepped closer, his eyes locked on Bennett's. Badge number 3492. You remember that number? Because the FBI will. Then Mitchell turned to the witnesses still gathered on the sidewalk and in the windows. Carlos, Emily, David, thank you for speaking up. Thank you for not staying silent. That's how we break the pattern. Emily Rodriguez uploaded the video to Twitter at 4:22 p.m. The caption was simple. CPD officer just arrested a black man for moving into his own building. This is 21. By 6 p.m., the video had 500,000 views. By midnight, 8 million. By Sunday morning, it was the lead story on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. The Chiron read, Chicago police superintendent arrested by own officer. James Mitchell's son, David, saw the video at his dorm room at DePaul. He called his father, and his voice was shaking. Dad, are you okay? I saw what happened. I saw how he grabbed you. Dad, what if, his voice cracked, what if you weren't the chief? What if you were just some regular guy? Would you be in jail right now? Mitchell held the phone staring at the wall of his new townhouse, and he couldn't answer truthfully. Because the truth was probably yes. His wife Angela found him in the kitchen an hour later, still holding his phone. 28 years, she said quietly. I've watched you serve for 28 years. 3 cities. You finally make superintendent. This was supposed to be our fresh start. And this is your welcome to Chicago. The media firestorm was immediate and relentless. Mayor Lori Harrison held an emergency press conference Sunday morning at 10 a.m. What happened yesterday is unacceptable. A full investigation has been launched. Officer Bennett has been suspended pending review. The Chicago Fraternal Order of Police issued their own statement within an hour. Officer Bennett followed established protocol. The detainee refused to comply with lawful orders. By Monday morning, 2,000 protesters gathered outside CPD headquarters. Signs read badge number 3492 equals pattern had fire Bennett, and one that cut deeper than the rest. If it happened to the chief, imagine what it happens to us. Tuesday afternoon, the FBI's Civil Rights Division opened a formal investigation. Internal Affairs flagged 47 similar complaints from District 18 over the past 5 years. 47 complaints. 43 of them, 91%, involved black men, average age 28 to 45, all stopped in high-income neighborhoods, all questioned about whether they belong there. And here's the part that should make your blood boil. 0 of those 47 complaints resulted in officer discipline. 0. CPD's Internal Affairs had cleared Bennett 6 times using the same 2 phrases over and over. Insufficient evidence. Officer's word versus civilian's word. How many times does insufficient evidence really mean we protect our own? The Internal Affairs review of Bennett's body camera footage was damning. No reasonable suspicion, no crime witnessed, no articulable threat. Under Terry v. Ohio, the legal standard that governs police stops an officer must be able to point to specific articulable facts that justify the detention. Ryan Bennett had none. He had a black man carrying boxes in a wealthy neighborhood. That was it. The FBI interviewed witnesses. Carlos Martinez provided the lease paperwork showing Mitchell's name, his move-in date, his unit number. Emily Rodriguez provided her video, which showed Mitchell calmly unloading a U-Haul for over an hour before Bennett arrived. David Okonkwo confirmed he had seen Mitchell making multiple trips, greeting neighbors, clearly moving in. No suspicious behavior, no furtive movements, nothing. Bennett's defense crumbled under the slightest scrutiny. He claimed the area had multiple break-ins. CPD records showed 0 break-ins reported on that block in the past 6 months. He claimed Mitchell refused to provide ID. The body camera showed Mitchell never refused. He asked a legal question about whether he was being detained. Bennett claimed Mitchell matched a description. No description existed. No call had come in. No bolo had been issued. Bennett made it up. On June 20th, 2023, after a 30-day review, the acting superintendent Mitchell, having recused himself, fired Ryan Bennett for conduct unbecoming an officer, racial profiling, and false arrest. The Fraternal Order of Police appealed. Arbitration upheld the firing. The FBI's Civil Rights Division released their findings in July 2023. Pattern of discriminatory policing in District 18, supervisory failures, lack of accountability mechanisms. They declined to file criminal charges, insufficient proof of intent required for federal civil rights violations, but they recommended a consent decree requiring federal oversight of CPD's practices. The personal consequences for Ryan Bennett were swift and total. Fired. Pension forfeited because he hadn't reached the 10-year minimum vesting period. Banned from all law enforcement positions in Illinois. Entered into a national misconduct database, making him unemployable in any security role. His wife, Sarah, filed for divorce in September 2023. She told friends she couldn't handle the shame, couldn't face the other teachers at her school. Bennett's kids were bullied relentlessly. Your dad's the racist cop. Your dad arrested his own boss. Bennett moved to Gary, Indiana. Last anyone heard, he was working a warehouse job for $16 an hour. Badge number 3492, 9 years on the force, 6 civilian complaints, 47 victims across District 18. And just one, finally had the institutional power to fight back. June 25th, 2023, CPD headquarters. The press room was packed, cameras from every major network, reporters shoulder to shoulder. Superintendent James Mitchell stood at the podium, his wife Angela on one side, his son David on the other. He adjusted the microphone, took a breath, and began. I've been a cop for 26 years, he said. I've worked in 3 different cities. I've written policies. I've trained thousands of officers. I've testified before Congress about police reform, and in 90 seconds, Officer Ryan Bennett made me feel exactly what millions of Black Americans feel every single day: powerless, scared, guilty for existing in my own neighborhood. His voice cracked slightly. He paused and looked down at his notes, then back up at the cameras. My son watched that video. David is 20 years old. He's studying to be a lawyer. He wants to fight for justice. He called me and he was crying and he asked me, "Dad, if you weren't the superintendent, would you be in jail right now?" Mitchell's jaw tightened. I couldn't lie to him. The answer is probably yes. The room was completely silent. If you work in retail, in food service, in hospitality, in any job where you interact with the public and someone treats you the way Officer Bennett treated me, I want you to understand something. You don't deserve that. You have rights. But more importantly, we need to build systems where you have the power to enforce those rights. Because dignity without enforcement is just a nice idea on a piece of paper. Mitchell straightened his voice, growing stronger. Effective immediately, the following changes will take place in the Chicago Police Department. First, a civilian oversight board with subpoena power has been approved by the Chicago City Council. They will review complaints independently. Second, mandatory body camera review for all stops where a civilian files a complaint. No more he said, she said. Third, officers will now complete an anti-profiling checklist after every stop documenting articulable reasons that are not based on appearance. Fourth, quarterly public reports on stop demographics will be published so communities can see exactly who we're stopping and why. He leaned into the microphone, his eyes moving across the cameras. Respect isn't earned by wearing a badge. Justice isn't justice if it only works when the victim has institutional power. We will do better, starting today. His final words hung in the air like a challenge. If this can happen to a police superintendent, what chance does a delivery driver have? A college student, your son. The numbers don't lie. Black Americans are 3.5 times more likely to be stopped by police than white Americans, according to the Stanford Open Policing Project's 2023 analysis. 68% of Black Americans report being treated unfairly by police at least once in their lives. That's Pew Research, also 2023. Only 1 in 12 complaints against officers result in any discipline whatsoever. And that's from the Police Accountability Database tracking departments nationwide. 89% of police misconduct cases involve repeat offenders, officers who've done it before and will do it again. USA Today documented that pattern in 2021. So why was this case different? James Mitchell had institutional power. He was the boss. He had legal expertise. He knew his rights better than most civil rights attorneys. He stayed calm. Bennett still escalated. The body camera footage was irrefutable. Witnesses documented everything in real time. The story went viral before the department could control the narrative, and public pressure made a cover-up impossible. But here are the root causes that make cases like this so common. Officers are trained to demand compliance, not earn trust. Qualified immunity shields them from civil liability even when they violate rights. The burden of proof in misconduct cases overwhelmingly favors police. Most victims can't afford lawyers or don't have the time to fight a years-long legal battle. And the thin blue line culture means officers protect each other even when they know someone crossed the line. What changed after this case? Chicago PD now reviews all body camera footage from stops where a civilian files a complaint. Previously, only high-priority cases got reviewed. The new anti-profiling checklist is mandatory. The Illinois Attorney General now tracks pretextual stops. Those are stops with weak or fabricated justification, and publishes the data quarterly. The first report in January 2024 showed something disturbing. 31% of stops in high-income areas involved Black individuals, but Black residents make up only 9% of the population in those neighborhoods. 23 other Illinois police departments adopted similar body camera review policies. The International Association of Chiefs of Police featured this case in their 224 training materials as an example of what systemic racism looks like in practice. But here's what still needs to change. Qualified immunity still protects officers in the vast majority of cases. Police union contracts still make it nearly impossible to fire problem officers. There is no national database of officer misconduct, which means officers fired in one city can simply be hired in the next county or the next state. Badge number 3492 is banned from law enforcement in Illinois. But nothing, absolutely nothing, stops Ryan Bennett from getting badge number 5678 in Wisconsin. Let me ask you this. Do we really believe police reform is possible when officers like Ryan Bennett can racially profile people for 9 years, accumulate 6 documented complaints, terrorize 47 victims, and face 0 consequences until one of those victims happens to be their boss? Do we really believe accountability exists when the only reason this case got national attention, the only reason Bennett was fired, the only reason the FBI got involved was because James Mitchell had a badge and institutional power to fight back? Do we really believe the system works when we need body cameras, viral videos, national protests, and a federal investigation just to fire one bad cop? Because here's the truth. If James Mitchell had been Marcus Green, the delivery driver Bennett put in the hospital in 2019, Bennett would still have his badge today. If Mitchell had been Jamal Thompson, the college student Bennett stopped and frisked in 2016, Bennett would still be patrolling Lincoln Park. If Mitchell had been Terrence Williams, the tech worker Bennett harassed outside that same building in 2021, Bennett would still be out there stopping black men for the crime of looking suspicious in a wealthy neighborhood. The next victim won't be a police superintendent with 26 years of experience and a law degree. They'll be someone's father moving into their new home, someone's son coming home from college, someone's husband delivering packages to pay the rent. And they won't have the power to fight back. They won't have a body camera review board. They won't have the FBI. They'll just have to survive the interaction and hope it doesn't end with them in handcuffs or worse. So I need you to do something right now. Comment below. If you believe Officer Ryan Bennett should be banned from all law enforcement positions nationwide, not just in Illinois. Comment if you believe qualified immunity needs to end so officers can be held accountable when they violate civil rights. Comment if you've experienced or witnessed racial profiling yourself, because your story matters. Your voice matters. Share this video if you believe one viral video shouldn't be the only way to get justice. Share this if you are done waiting for the next Ryan Bennett to profile the next James Mitchell. Share this if you believe black people deserve dignity and respect without needing a badge, a law degree, or institutional power to prove they belong. Because this story got 6 million views. But views don't change laws. Pressure does. Action does. Your voice does. James Mitchell didn't stop at Ryan Bennett. Within 2 weeks of taking office, he ordered a comprehensive audit of the entire Chicago Police Department, starting with District 18. The data was staggering. In 2022 alone, District 18 officers made 340 documented stops. 217 of them, 64%, involved black individuals, but black people made up only 12% of the district's population. The audit flagged other officers. Officer Greg Hansen, badge number 4021, had 4 complaints with a pattern nearly identical to Bennett's. Officer Mike Cordero, badge number 2847, had 8 complaints, most involving excessive force. All of them had been cleared by internal affairs. All of them were still on active duty. In September 2023, the city of Chicago entered into a consent decree with the Department of Justice. 5 years of federal oversight. The mandates were specific use of force reforms, real accountability mechanisms, community policing training, and early intervention systems for officers with complaint patterns. The national ripple effect was immediate. This case has been cited in over 15 police reform bills across 8 states. Massachusetts introduced the Mitchell Act, named after James, not the original officer, from a different story, with enhanced penalties for law enforcement officers engaged in racial profiling. As of 2024, Superintendent James Mitchell still leads the Chicago Police Department. The reform's ongoing and hard-fought. His son David graduated from law school in 2026 and joined the ACLU's Criminal Justice Reform Project. His wife Angela started a nonprofit organization providing legal support and counseling for families affected by police misconduct. Ryan Bennett, meanwhile, is working in a warehouse in Gary, Indiana for $16 an hour. He's featured in Department of Justice training videos as an example of what not to do. He deleted his LinkedIn profile after waves of online harassment. His marriage dissolved. He's estranged from his children who changed their last name to their mother's maiden name. This story has been shared 6 million times. But shares don't change laws. Votes do. Action does. Pressure on your city council does. So let me ask you, will you just scroll past or will you demand your city council adopt these reforms? Here's what I need you to understand. This isn't just about Ryan Bennett or James Mitchell. This is about every Black person who's been stopped, questioned, detained, arrested for the crime of existing in a neighborhood someone decided they don't belong in. This is about every worker who's been disrespected, profiled, dehumanized, and told to just accept it because that's how the system works. What we saw in this case was a perfect storm. Individual courage, James Mitchell staying calm when most people would have panicked. Collective action, witnesses like Carlos, Emily, and David refusing to stay silent. And institutional power, the FBI stepping in because the victim had a badge. That combination created systemic change. But we cannot rely on luck. We cannot wait for the next victim to be a police superintendent. Hit subscribe because we are exposing these patterns every single week. We are demanding accountability. We are fighting for real police reform, for protected workers' rights, for a system where justice doesn't depend on whether you have a badge or a law degree or a viral video. I don't know about you, but I am done tolerating a system where badge number 3492 can terrorize a community for 9 years and only face consequences when he accidentally arrests his boss. I am done pretending body cameras and diversity training can fix a system that was designed to protect bad cops. I am done waiting for change. Are you? Comment right now if you believe qualified immunity must end. Tag someone who needs to see this. Share this to every group chat, every timeline, every conversation about police reform. Because silence equals complicity, and we don't have time for silence anymore. Badge number 3492, 9 years, 6 complaints, 47 victims, 1 superintendent, 0 tolerance. That's the standard. Are you with me?